Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi, hello everybody, and welcome back to D Plus Us, the show about all things Disney. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin Tennell, Griffy D-Pad, and with me as always is the wonderful, the amazing Mr. Mitch George. How are you doing tonight?
It is Nerd Christmas, and I am here for it.
Not tonight, today. This is one of our rare, midday recordings, not let's record at midnight.
Time is relative.
Time is relative. Of course, folks, if you didn't know, right now is at the time of us recording, we're nearing the end of San Diego Comic-Con. But we got some massive, massive Marvel news last night, and so an emergency recording is due. Because
it wasn't available last night because I was in my second showing of Deadpool and Wolverine. As soon as I got out and got home, I saw all this shit happen, and I went, what the fuck, Griffin?
I think it's really funny how this all happened, just from our standpoint, because we totally tag teamed of you were in Deadpool Wolverine, I was watching this, then I went to Deadpool and Wolverine, and you were catching up on this.
You came back to all of my crazy theories.
It's definitely a lot happened last night, so we're going to talk all about the Marvel Hall H panel, Marvel at Comic-Con just in general, because there's a couple of awesome, cool things I want to just really quickly highlight. The first being, we'll get into all of that, and obviously this is going to be really focused on the MCU, and this is probably going to tie into an inevitable discussion that we'll have after D23. But also...
Yeah, I imagine this is part one to the part two that will be D23 in, 2 weeks?
Also, fingers crossed that this chops off at least a half hour of the D23 episode.
Nah, it'll make it twice as long.
Of course it will. So, all that, a little bit of a roll. First off, hey, thanks for listening. If you're listening to this, head on over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@DPlusUs, where you can see our lovely faces and the video version of this with B-roll, because I am actually prepared for once. I know, it's rare. The other thing is go ahead and check out our other episode coming soon, or maybe out now, depending on how I get things out. Our review of Deadpool and Wolverine. It is a Marvel-ass Marvel week here on the podcast.
It's just a marvelous time to be a comic book fan.
That was a good pun, and I respect it.
I try.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about the quickly fun things I just want to quickly shout out before we really jump into the MCU, which is, first off, a bunch of awesome comic stuff got announced. I just want to shout that out. I know we don't talk about the comic stuff much, but a bunch of new X-Men stuff dropped. We got the announcement of the TVA comic, which I think... still don't know how I feel about it, but a TVA comic starring Captain Carter and Spider-Gwen.
Ghost Spider, yeah. I'm very intrigued by that because it's also this version of the TVA's first time in the comics. It's Miss Minute's first introduction to the comics. Well, this version of the TVA?
Yes, because the first time is in the current Spider-Gwen comic book.
Oh, okay.
Which is very interesting to me, and I think that's why she's a part of this.
Makes
the
sense.
reason she's in the main Marvel universe is essentially Obi, or Boris is stay here, don't do shit, and then she does shit because of course she does.
Because it's Ghost Spider.
Yeah,
Spider-Gwen.
No, it's very fascinating to me. Honestly, my big hype around comics over the last couple of days is all of the X-Men announcements. X-Men is starting their new run From the Ashes post Krakoa, and it's already starting off with a bang. The first X-Men comic was great. NYX is stellar. But we got announcements for a solo Psylocke comic book and a solo Laura Kinney comic book, which right off the heels of Deadpool and Wolverine just totally makes sense and awesome, wonderful. The other piece of news I want to quickly bring before we jump up to MCU is that we got a new trailer for Marvel Rivals. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because this is the first time we've seen the Marvel Games logo. And just seeing the Marvel Games logo.
I thought you were going to say it's because they announced Jeff the baby land shark.
Well, we will always talk about Jeff the land shark, but Jeff deserves his own episode, frankly. Frankly, I want to make a video essay that's just the history of Jeff. Because it's
not a bad idea, especially leading into Marvel Rivals.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that. I'll put something together. But yeah, it's wonderful. It's awesome this game exists. Close beta, yada, yada, yada. All that's out of the way. Perfect. MCU time. Mitch, we got some big announcements about Robert Downey Jr. last night.
We got to end on that. Let's we got to lead up to that. As you can tell from the thumbnail, yes, we're talking about Robert Downey Jr. today. Surprise, surprise.
Did I
the
make
whole
the
internet's
thumbnail
talking about it.
far before we recorded this episode? Yes, I did, because I knew what was going to get clicks on this shit.
Let's start with, I guess,
top?
Captain America?
Yeah, Captain America. We got some new Brave New World footage. None of this footage surprisingly leaked. The big leak came from Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Which we'll get to. But we did get some information on this one. We now know who Giancarlo Esposito is playing. He is playing Seth Volker, Sidewinder, King of the Serpent Society. Kind of hilarious that the Serpent Society is coming back now after the announcement for Civil War.
Well, also just interesting because the Serpent Society was cut from the movie, and then they planned reshoots, and they brought Giancarlo Esposito in. So now it's kind of this about face where they're bringing the Serpent Society back into the movie.
Or maybe they weren't cut to begin with. Maybe this was all misdirection.
Could be.
Maybe the reshoots and rewrites that were required because of what's her fuck. I genuinely don't know her name. That is not me being insulting, even though I will insult her.
I was going to say the troubling character with ties to Israel.
IDF. Yeah, the IDF, the former IDF agent.
It sounded like from the summary of the footage that she was being treated as a former Black Widow operative.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. That's what
which
it seemed
could
like
be
in the
interesting,
trailer,
but also it's just a troubling character in general, and they probably should have steered away from it. But I digress.
Yeah, they probably should have cut her entirely. Actually, I wanted them to cut her entirely. But I think the interesting stuff we got
that is a
here,
shared sentiment amongst many of us.
I think the main thing we got out of this was Giancarlo, him just being awesome as always, but also
Tiamat Island,
but also just Harrison Ford in general. Like the pictures.
Yeah, he's having a lot of fun with this, and I really appreciate that
him
about
coming
him.
out and doing the Hulk pose.
The Hulk poses, yeah, that was weird, but also very.
It was weird, but I also
grandpa-esque. Yeah, but no, the idea that the MCU plans to introduce adamantium as something being harvested from Tiamat Island, the celestial that we saw in the Eternals, we're finally acknowledging that movie happened, which is great because I love that movie. Unironically, I think that's not a very common sentiment, but I absolutely love that film. So it'll be great to revisit some of that and what the implications are of this giant ass thing sticking out the middle of the ocean.
Mm-hmm. I'm very fascinated by this movie. I still have very mixed feelings with her being in this movie and the previous incarnations of it. But I love Sam Wilson. I love Captain America. I love the vibe that we're getting from this, that we're getting from the trailer. I love that we're bringing adamantium into this, especially after the events of Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, it's shaping up to be very interesting. Like, next year in particular for Marvel is going to be very, very interesting.
Almost a transitionary year, just knowing what this saga of the MCU is supposed to shape up to be. Knowing what we found out yesterday in terms of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is essentially just now a write-off film that means nothing in the grand scheme of things, which is kind of awful, to be honest. Because that was meant to
not entirely, because Cassie still.
Yes, but a large part of that plot was the introduction of Kang, and now we're not getting Kang for obvious reasons.
Fair enough, but I like that we're taking what was, in my opinion, the best part of that movie, which was Cassie, and that's all that matters now.
And hopefully we see more of how that's going to shape up. Maybe as a tease after Thunderbolts, who knows? But yeah, I think next year is going to be.
Let's talk about.
I was just gonna say, just to your point about next year between Captain America, Thunderbolts, and whatever it is we get from Disney Plus
and Fantastic Four.
Is Fantastic Four next year?
Fantastic Four is next year.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and then on the Disney Plus side, we will probably get Ironheart next year, and I believe Daredevil next year.
Daredevil next year, yeah. Ironheart, you would assume so, and then we're just waiting on dates for Eyes of Wakanda and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, which I will pizza bet this, taco bet this right now. We get dates for
Chimichanga bet it.
We'll chimichanga bet it. We get dates for at least one of those at D23.
I think we get both.
Yeah, like I would tell you that's such a sure
it's time.
bet. Like we gotta at least
There
see
will
them.
there will be a Marvel animation project that releases winter 2024.
It'll be
It's one of
season
three. It is one of three things. It is one of those two, or what if season 3, and we'll get that over the holidays because it's what they did last year, and it's probably what they're aiming to do again this year.
Honestly, that might have been one of their best release schedules. Is that daily during Christmas break?
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I'm sorry, Thunderbolts. When literally everyone's like, "Man, this footage that they're showing us really has a James Gunn's The Suicide Squad feel to it." I'm like, "Yeah, of course it does. It's the Thunderbolts."
Honestly, just the cast they pulled together for this. You've got David Harbour, Sebastian Stan, Florence Pugh.
Have you seen the pictures of David Harbour
in full costume?
Yeah. I love that we.
Y'all didn't get my text. We thought we were coming in full costume. Someone
It's
had to
such
do
a
it. I'm
David
glad it was
Harbour bit. I love it so much, but also like, this is an updated version of the suit that actually fits.
Yeah,
and it looks pretty good.
I mean, also, you've got John Walker, everyone's favorite Captain America, coming back, so that'll be a good time.
Dude, I love that his line is like, "Everyone's gonna love me in this movie," and I'm like,
that's because he's a narcissistic asshole, and that's all we need.
I love you,
U.S. agent.
You are so good in this role.
It's
and more than anything, Wyatt Russell, I love hating you in this role.
That's exactly why he's there.
But I think we got some interesting stuff of this. Of like, first off, the Yelena storyline here of the only thing I'm good at is killing. I'm very curious to see that, especially after like the beginning of her relationship with Kate in Hawkeye, and potentially whatever her relationship will be here with Bucky. Like I feel like that's going to be that conversation of Bucky just went through exactly this of making amends for those deaths and trying to find what's next in his path.
Also losing his best friend.
Mm-hmm. Like I feel like those two in particular are very much from the beginning. I've said this; those two are going to be the heart of this movie.
Yeah, and Bucky definitely dies.
I'm not sure.
Bucky dies.
Although I will say, Sebastian Stan's comment did not help me with that theory.
It's been 11 years, man.
His comment was literally, "It feels like I have 9 lives. How many do I have left?"
This is the one. This has got to be the one.
Like, Buck, come on, man.
We'll see.
Stick with me on all of this.
Hey, we gotta, drop off some older characters so we can get introduced to some brand spanking new question mark ones, although they're Marvel's first family.
I got one more thing about Thunderbolts before we jump in.
God damn it, I tried so hard.
You had a good transition there. I respect it. You did great. But there's one more thing I want to talk about with Thunderbolts, which I think is interesting, which is the actual story points in this.
Fair enough.
It's official. We're getting the Sentry. Hell yeah, we're getting the fucking Sentry.
We'll see how this works out. I need this to be the threat that you expect it to be, because it's essentially just bad Superman, and we need bad Superman to do bad shit.
Well, it's bad Superman with
mental health
with
issues.
2 personalities.
Yeah.
And he fights his bad personality. Like, I love the Sentry. I am a massive New Avengers stan. Like, that is the comic book that got me into comic books. So I'm very, very excited for this now because of that. But the other thing that I'm really interested in on this is how this team dynamic is going to work, because they very much said, like, these people do not work well together. But there was also the added aspect of this that they mentioned in some of the footage where it's, no, these guys were not sent as a team. They were all sent individually. And I really think that that's going to be an interesting component into this movie. Okay, you want to try your transition again into Fantastic Four?
No, fuck it. Just talk about Fantastic Four.
All right, let's talk about Fantastic Four. We have a subtitle, Mitch. We've got
Baby
a
steps.
subtitle. So close.
Baby steps.
First steps.
I know.
First steps for releasing the Fantastic Four. First steps.
I don't love it. I don't love it, but I get it, because you've already had 2 Fantastic Four movies that were middling to mediocre to bad.
Considering that this is going to be, we are going to see them going to space for the first time. I love that aspect of it.
No, it's not.
Well, no, we're seeing them in space though. Like, we are seeing that. We saw that in the leaked trailer.
And we saw
freaking Galactus.
We saw the Fantastic Four in space.
Like,
they were in space.
Did you watch the?
Ben Grimm did a spacewalk.
Did you watch the full leaked trailer?
No, because the cell service at my cottage is dookie.
Yeah, I found it on. I watched it on YouTube and then immediately found it on like TikTok like 2 hours later.
Yeah. It'll pop
Um,
up in my TikTok feed eventually.
It looks really good. It looks amazing. Like most of the trailer
Yeah.
is in 4:3.
Well, it's also like my understanding of the trailer is it was just kind of put together as like a proof of concept. It's not necessarily going to be. I bet
very
that
much
that's the
feels proof
vibe
of
they're
concept.
going for, but I don't think it's going to be 4:3. I hope parts of it are.
Well, no,
That
the
would be
reason
really
that it's
neat.
4:3, I feel like the reason it's 4:3 is they're showing off like them doing like a television show.
Yeah. And I
like,
don't
it
think
is-
that's going to be a big part of
It's
the
like redoing
movie.
a science show. And
Yeah, Ben Grimm
there's
on
a
a
level of
dating show.
funniness to it too, because it's like
Yeah.
he explains all this stuff. None of the kids give a shit. It's like, you want to see me blow something up?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, like I'm real. Like this is basically the Jetsons in live action with superpowers.
I mean,
is
yeah,
what they're going for,
with that
and I'm
fantastic
all
part,
about this. I think this is going to be really, really cool. It's going to feel like The Incredibles meets the Jetsons in a great kind of live action mashup, and it really adds credence to my expectation that. I mean, they've already confirmed that this is another universe. So I can just see the threads already coming together for what Secret Wars is going to be. And this is one of the many Earths that is going to be featured there. And it's going to be really cool to see all that come together.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting having the Fantastic Four like so well established going into Doomsday and Secret Wars later on. I also I'm showing footage of it, so I want to shout out the Fantastic Car looking absolutely amazing. Like this is something straight out of the Jetsons.
Yeah.
They're absolutely nailing the vibe. What's most interesting to me in the footage, though, is kind of like this background image they were showing on their screen of like this fantastical, futuristic, frankly, pardon me on the Disney podcast, frankly, some space Tomorrowland-ass shit.
It really is.
Retro futurism. I am very, very excited for this this movie. Like watching that leaked footage, everything looks really good. I love these four together. I loved seeing Galactus.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like I'm looking forward to a comic accurate Galactus for the first time ever.
I really hope they put out the trailer. Now that it's been leaked, people have seen it.
I don't think they will because it is more like proof of concept arty sort of vibes.
It is.
I
but
fully
it's still
like
enough.
I fully expect we do not see this movie in any way until the Super Bowl. Fantastic Four first trailer will be at the Super Bowl.
I could see it. I could also. I don't know. Everything about where Marvel is at right now is weird. So I could see them
the way
saying
I'm
fuck
looking at it,
but-
they've got those 3 movies next year, right? So I expect that we're going to see. We've already seen the Captain America trailer. We'll get another one at some point. Captain America will have the trailer for Thunderbolts because I feel like they're not to the same level. We're actually going to get a trailer for Fantastic Four before we get a trailer for Thunderbolts because they're going to want to highlight Fantastic Four at the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Unless we get both.
One of the funniest things to me during the panel was during the Thunderbolt section and how many times Feige was like, "This is not related to Captain America," purely because of Thunderbolt Ross.
Thunderbolt Ross. Yeah.
And frankly, I think that's bullshit. I think they will be related, but
I hope they're not.
I think
Honestly,
it's just more
we'll
in
get-
the way of I think there's going to be the politics involved. I think they're going to relate them, but
Again, I hope not. I hope that film can stand on its own. It's something I'm going to talk about a lot when we get to talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, which you can catch on YouTube, podcast, wherever you catch our stuff.
hopefully now, probably in a couple days.
I like the idea of these stories not necessarily having as much connective tissue to one another until you get to those larger team up initiatives.
So when I say
So
they're
I am
connected,
really-
I want to really preface that I want them connected in the way like movies after Civil War were connected by the Sokovia Accords. Like I'm not saying that they are
That's
directly
reasonable.
connected. I am saying that there are going to be similar politics in play in Brave New World that are involved in Thunderbolts.
I mean, the fallout of the actions of Captain America will be felt at every level of government, I would assume.
Yeah. and it
So
feels
it'll
like
be
that's
interesting to
kinda
see
what happened.
how that plays into the events in Thunderbolts, or if maybe they're happening in parallel, so there isn't any connectivity, and that would be honestly fine.
Yeah. I am interested in all that. Interested in like like we've mentioned, it's a very weird 3 movies that are coming out this next year. All 3 are hype for their own reasons, in my opinion. But I think Fantastic Four is the whammy here. Looking at dates, it
It
is
has to be.
Captain America
That
comes
is
out.
their summer blockbuster. It's coming out in July.
Yeah, Cap comes out
You've got
on
Thunderbolts
February
in May.
14th. February 14th is Captain America. May
I've
5th
already
is
talked. I've already talked to
Thunderbolts.
Carmen. Captain America will probably be our first date night after the baby.
Fair. You guys gonna
Like that's gonna be.
go on Valentine's Day?
That's the plan. Well, probably the 13th because we usually do the Thursday nights because we're crazy. But yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah, February 14th, May 5th, and then July 25th for Fantastic Four. And then obviously there will be interstitial TV shows and animation and yada 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 in there as well for next year. Definitely a busier year compared to this year for Marvel. I'm definitely interested to see what's going to set this stuff up and how this is going to establish where we're going forward for our new Avengers movies. For Avengers Doomsday in 2026 and Avengers Secret Wars in 2027.
Both being directed by the Russo brothers, surprising nobody after the turmoil those films have gone through to this point. As well as knowing that the Russo brothers' dream project was always Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I can already see what they're putting down, and what they're putting down, I'm ready to sop up with a spoon.
Yeah, of course, this is one thing we've said before, but I'll say it again at the risk of being repetitive. Go read Secret Wars. Like, it's just
Which one?
genuinely the one that this is going to be based off of, the new one.
I was going to say, you're with me on it being the new one, and I agree.
One of the best comic books ever written. One of the most influential, like, paradigm Marvel shifting storylines ever. Like, we've had some good ones.
The landscape of the MCU is about to change forever for multiple reasons, but the outcome of Secret Wars is, I've been saying this for years. If they're doing Secret Wars 2, this is how they soft reboot the MCU. And I think that's going to be really, really cool, especially when you're going to pull in characters from multiple Earths, assuming that it is the Fantastic Four from Earth 1960, I'm just going to call it, that come through. It is a way to collapse the Sony universe forever. RIP to Eddie Brock on that side, but we're done with that. It is a way to put a familiar face on a big bad and make that the center of this story, which I think, knowing the character of Doctor Doom and how integral that character is to Secret Wars 2, you needed someone to bring the heat. And by golly, Griffin, did they announce the right actor to bring that heat?
Did they, though?
Yes.
Did they? That is the question, the big one that we're talking about here, though, folks. Like, you've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the goddamn news. Like, we have seen it that Robert Downey Jr. himself is going to be playing Doctor Doom. He is the new big
Robert Downey Jr. is going to be playing Victor Von Doom, aka Doctor Doom. I think that's a very specific distinction that we have to make. This isn't some Tony Stark variant. This is a Victor Von Doom being played by Robert Downey Jr.
I will
as
say,
confirmed by the Russo brothers.
Still being very RDJ, when he takes off that mask, literally does the Iron Man pose. But also, then
Same task, new mask.
Immediately puts his sunglasses on.
I mean, he's RDJ.
Yeah, some RDJ things just won't disappear. I don't know how I feel about the casting, to be honest with you.
I think there's a lot of really interesting things that can happen here. My brain immediately jumps to this Doom is from. I mean, the easiest thing to do is this is the Doom from the Fantastic Four universe, and he comes in, and he's essentially trying to do the same thing where, Tony failed in Avengers: Age of Ultron to build a shield around the world, and he's going to do that, but with a much, firmer take on that initiative. Another fun theory I've seen thrown out there is that in the power vacuum that was created when the Illuminati were killed in Multiverse of Madness, that Victor Von Doom stepped in and built that world back up. I think that would be really neat, especially with the rumors that the Iron Man on that world was Tom Cruise and not RDJ. That could be pretty fun to play around with. But ultimately, I love the idea of an Avengers movie where these characters who have such reverence for Tony Stark on their world are now going to have to grapple with the fact that someone with that face is trying to end all existence on their planet or in their universe in order to save his universe or something akin to the start of Civil War or Secret Wars 2, where, the Master or the Maker and Doom are both trying to save their worlds from this impending incursion. And that is what Doomsday is going to be. It's the end of the universes, and then Secret Wars is Secret Wars, and it's going to be fucking incredible.
Yeah, I am torn. There's a level of me that loves the idea of, hey, the multiverse's greatest threat is going to have the face of what it has been the MCU's greatest hero. Like that is a fascinating storyline to me. But there's a level of hiring Robert Downey Jr. for this that does still feel regressive. Nope, I'm not saying backpedaling. I am not saying
no. I'm right there with you.
I'm being very specific in my wording on this. This does feel to me a lot like trying to get back some of the fans that have stepped away from the MCU post.
It feels like pandering.
For the wrong reasons, frankly.
Yeah.
Like there's been a lot of those, and I can understand why you would want to get those fans back. Don't get me wrong, money is money. Like at the end of the day, the Marvel Universe is always the first and foremost reason for the Marvel Universe to exist is to make Marvel Studios money. Like I understand that, but there's a level of this that I just don't love. But I've also said that a lot of the criticism that I've seen, frankly, is bullshit. The only criticism I've seen, I can understand just not liking the casting, but the main criticism I've seen, the only one that I agree with is, the only ones I do agree with are two, which is Doom deserves a lot more time, which I 100% agree with.
I agree with that for sure.
This is absolutely just a state of circumstance, which I think is why we're getting RDJ as Doom. And then the other is that they should have hired a Romani actor, which I absolutely agree with.
I agree with both of these sentiments. What I can see here is I love the parallel or the bookend to the MCU or this version of the MCU. RDJ starts it, RDJ kills it, literally. Like he created the MCU with Iron Man. He's now going to end the MCU as it exists as Doctor Doom. And I think that's really, really poetic. The other thing here is I don't think this is he's not the permanent Doom in the MCU. I think he is the Doom through the end of the multiverse saga. I do think at the end of Secret Wars, when we get whatever the next Fantastic Four second steps, where Doom is the main villain, it is them having to contend with a young upstart out of Romania or out of a Romani country that is Victor Von Doom, that is doing the Victor Von Doom things. It is someone else. It is, you see the fan cast Cillian Murphy. You see the fan cast of. That's really the only one I want is Cillian Murphy. But you could find an actor that has those Romani. Giancarlo also would have been good. But you can find an actor with those roots that meets that criteria. That it doesn't. I don't love RDJ having to be the one to shepherd this through to the finish line. But at the same time, with the way the story is going to be portrayed, presumably, it still leaves the door open after Secret Wars to introduce a version of Doom that makes sense with where we are geopolitically. Because you've got to look at someone coming out of a smaller nation like that and frame it with a geopolitical lens, as well as, allowing that story to end. It needs to end. Mm-hmm. And I would agree with that. Secret Wars is a very good place to end that group of actors and characters and really, soft reboot into something new and interesting and hopefully worth continuing to invest the time and money in.
Yeah, I think the most interesting take on all of this I've seen actually has come from Boss Logic. And I'm just going to read his tweet verbatim because frankly it's easier. But he said, one of my favorite characters is Doom. And people are asking me why I'm not hating this casting. My biggest reason for being happy about this is the timing. We are going to need Doctor Doom for Secret Wars, which is just a little over 2 years away. There's not enough movies in time to develop a whole new Doom with a deep storyline and history by then. So depending how they do this, and if they adapt Infamous Iron Man in the MCU because Tony's history is there's a lot to work with. which I think is the interesting thing here. Infamous Iron Man is a very, very interesting comic series. Infamous Iron Man is Doom. It is not Tony.
But it is Tony Stark. It's not Victor Von Doom, isn't
No,
it?
it is Victor Von Doom.
Okay.
This is after Tony dies.
Okay, see, that I would really love.
Like, highly recommend reading it if you go to your comic store or use Marvel Unlimited, whatever.
What was it called again?
Infamous
Iron
Man. Basically, Doom is like, fuck y'all, I'm gonna be Iron Man, and no one wants him to be Iron Man because he's Victor Von Doom. I can see Doom popping up in a lot of future projects. Like I was looking through like what our future slate is, and like I can absolutely see it. Doom makes sense, and I think they can set up Doom in such a way. Like,
I mean, I think we could see Doom as early as Thunderbolts if we really wanted to.
I wouldn't say Thunderbolts, but I would say Ironheart.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Again, it's going to be really interesting to see where they go with this because, I mean, as of 8 minutes ago, Marvel Studios on Twitter has also confirmed that it is Victor Von Doom. So we now know all of the internet being like, oh, they're just bringing back Tony Stark and making him a bad guy. Like, that's not what they're doing here.
Yeah, like
this is a version of Victor Von Doom, and we're going to see how this goes.
Mm-hmm. Like, I also think it's interesting that it's like, this is a character who famously doesn't show his face.
There's that too. Yeah.
Like, I mentioned this in one of like the Discords we're a part of. Like, there is you need a certain gravitas to your actor who is going to play Victor Von Doom, and like Tony definitely has, or not Tony, sorry,
RDJ.
RDJ definitely has that. Like, I'm very interested to see how this goes, but like I was mentioning, looking through the future stuff, like, yeah, he could show up pretty much anywhere. Like, I don't expect him to show up in anything major next year. The only thing I could see him showing up in is Ironheart. If they want to talk, or sorry, not Ironheart, Fantastic Four.
It really just comes down to where this Victor Von Doom is coming from, right? What the origins of this variant are. And I'm just going to call him a variant, even if he's from the sacred timeline. I can't call it Earth 616. I'm sorry.
Technically, everyone's a variant, so.
Well, that's exactly it, right? We don't know what universe this version of Doom is coming from. So
I would not be surprised.
The only thing I can think of here in terms of multiverse stuff is Fantastic Four. That makes the most sense. Even if it is one of those things where it's just they show a shot in space and it pans out and it's just a view of the multiverse and it like zooms in on another universe and we don't know which one that will be, but it'll be one of them.
Yeah, I think what's interesting here, like looking forward, we are officially next year is going to be the end of Phase 5 and the beginning of Phase 6. I can see Fantastic Four is the first film of Phase 6, so I can see them showing Doom in that.
You almost have to at that point, right? You have to have he has to be set up somewhere prior to Doomsday.
Going further from there, I can see him showing up in Armor Wars, especially if they're going to go to the infamous Iron Man route with that. As far as shows, like we've been building up this Young Avengers storyline, and if they do go down to what I presume it would end up being the Young Avengers Children's Crusade comic book,
which is super dependent on Doom as a character.
Yeah. Terrible name. Really rough naming convention using Children's Crusade.
They can come up with something better, I'm sure.
They'll probably just call it the Young Avengers.
Yeah,
or frankly, sense. Young Avengers Search for the Scarlet Witch. But I'm confident that they can do something here. Like, I am best case scenario, I do think that this is a Marvel looking at what they've got, the time they've got, and the money they've got, and saying, okay, what can we do with this, and doing so on and so forth, and figuring shit out. From there, who the fuck knows? I'm
That's
not
what's
gonna.
fun about all this. We don't have all of the there are gaps that need to be filled on this release schedule. It's going to be interesting to see how else they tie into the larger MCU storyline with all this stuff, and ultimately, they're bringing. I know the best news that you saw yesterday, other than Michael Giacchino returning to score Fantastic Four First Steps, which I think is honestly perfect, is the fact that we've got a new writing team working on these Avengers movies.
Woo! So happy about that.
Yeah.
Also, we got the goats back, the writers from Avengers: Infinity War and Avengers Endgame,
And Winter Soldier and First Avenger,
I believe.
I want to say. Sounds right.
Yeah, but looking at some of the upcoming stuff that's coming forward, I don't see him.
I mean, also just that Michael Waldron is not, or as far as we know, he had been previously announced as a writer. He probably gets some sort of writing credit, but you got to hope this next draft is.
I love that I just have this unnecessary hatred of this man. This man's done.
Yeah, I don't get it. No.
No, it was one of those people that I just decided you did some stuff I didn't like. I'm just gonna hate on you. I'm just a hater.
He also wrote Loki season 1.
Yeah, I don't like Loki season 1.
You should. It's great.
I don't. It's bad.
It's great. You're crazy. I love you.
We'll talk more about Loki when we talk about Deadpool.
Will we?
We
probably
to,
will
yes.
since the TVA is in there.
But yeah, looking at some of the other future projects here, definitely. Well, actually, he could theoretically show up in Agatha. I doubt it. That show's very done.
Yeah, but if they wanted to be like, yeah, this has nothing to do with the show, but also, yeah, look, here's RDJ.
But also, Doom famously is a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Doom at the moment is
certain portrayals of Doom have been. Doom's kind of all over the place comic book wise.
In actual Earth 616, Doom is taking Sorcerer Supreme from Doctor Strange, which is just very interesting. But anyway, sorry. Looking forward, I'm like, okay, maybe not Blade, maybe Ironheart, Vision Quest, probably not.
I mean, assuming that comes out before Avengers.
I'm spitballing here, man. I'm spitballing.
Yeah, I know.
Armor Wars, maybe Wonder Man. I can't see it, but anything's possible. Obviously, he's not showing up in X-Men 97 or Marvel Zombies.
Hey, you never know.
And then some of the theorized stuff, I could very much see him showing up in Doctor Strange 3 if that comes out before Doomsday.
Yeah, that would track, especially if we're talking more about incursions.
Yeah,
I feel like we need another film to set up the incursions that we're going to see in Doomsday. Otherwise, Doomsday is going to be like a 4-hour-long movie, which I'm not opposed to.
I think that's what we're going to get out of Fantastic Four.
Let's be reasonable.
I think that's what we're going to get out of Fantastic Four. And we can talk
just the study of the multiverse.
I'm gonna say full spoilers from here on out for the MCU as we theorize some stuff.
I mean, we already have been for the most part.
Well, I want to talk about something from Deadpool and Wolverine here.
Let's not talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. These videos are going to come out around the same time.
That's why
we can talk about it on that episode.
I'm putting a spoiler
now that we have this
because it makes sense to talk about this here.
Fine. Spoilers. All the spoilers.
I think these incursions are going to come from the loss of anchor beings.
From where? Sorry.
From the loss of anchor beings.
Oh yeah. I fully agree, and I do believe 616 has already lost theirs.
Yeah, I think it was Tony.
It was definitely Tony, which we'll talk about in the Deadpool video. But
more interesting.
Apparently, we're getting into it here too.
But yeah, I can totally see where they're going with this. It's definitely interesting. It's not something we'll look back on for sure, one way or the other. But
does it go the Endgame route or the Age of Ultron route? We will see.
Yeah. That said, that's all for the future. We'll figure that out far further. I like how we said we'll do this for 20 minutes and then doubled that time.
Not surprised in the slightest.
Of course, we'll check out the other show, but until then, where can people find us, Mitch? That's right.
On the internet complaining about Robert Downey Jr. at D+us, at Griffey Deephead, at Mr. Mitch George.
Yeah, go check us out. Go check out our other shows. We will see y'all in the next episode. But until then, have a magical day.
Excelsior.